So, when you look back at your previous relationships, the 3.5 relationships, and you look at what the problems were in each of them, would you say that these are problems that were like visible from the start or visible a bit and you ignored them or and said, let's go on, or these are things that you saw later? What would you say?
I would say a lot of it was quite clear later or now, but it's things that were there. I was just oblivious to them, or I ignored them, or I, wanted my way. Again, like I said, my approach to dating, although I had a structure, was just led by the flesh. So even when I saw the red flags, I didn't want to see them. I ignored them. But then I was not in my clarity of mind. My mind was not so clear. It was too, and I'm just thinking now as we speak, there is an analogy of the sheep, right? It says the shepherd tends for the sheep, and he anoints the sheep with oil, and that's Jesus Christ, because the sheep faces a lot of challenges in life. Generally, as a sheep, there's insects that would come in and cluster it, and when it cluster it, it just can't concentrate, and it just beats its head. It can eventually die out of it. And then from time to time, the shepherd would come and anoint it, put oil, and then that oil will get rid of that distractions, those insects, and then the sheep can now be in clarity. So personally, I was not in clarity.
Okay.
I was also, there was a lot of noises and my own interest. The flesh was very loud as opposed to my spirit, and I then was oblivious. Again, if I'd have to then look into the relationships themselves, out of the 4 relationships, there's a common trend that I'm now seeing in clarity. The common trend being all of them, all 4 people were handsome. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'll elaborate why I'm saying so. All of them were tall. All of them were, say, smart. And all of them had a very interesting outlook in life, or there was something attractive about their life that I found to want to know a lot more about, and bringing it back to me, and I'll get to them shortly, but bringing it back to me, I had internal wounds, or I have internal wounds, and those internal wounds are mother wounds, father wounds. I was brought up in a home where love was defined as provision.
Okay.
My parents provided for me. I didn't lack. I was not the richest. I was not a spoiled brat, but I didn't lack anything. I had everything that I needed to be a full-fledged human being, adult, growing up.
Yeah.
But what I believe might have lacked in that relationship with my parents was the element of affirmation.
Okay.
There was no affirmation. I was never told, oh, my child, you are beautiful. Maybe the affirmation I had was, you are smart. And they would pride in that.
Okay.
But you are beautiful, you are enough, you are worthy, you are all the elements. And I think a young woman, mainly, we need those elements from the father figure to say that you are enough. You don't need somebody to come validate you. You don't need somebody to play a father figure role to you. I am your father. I will provide for you, and I love you affirmatively. And then the mother element. You are nurtured. You are beautiful. You are growing out to be a woman that you should be. There was no there was no element of that in my upbringing, and I don't blame them. I mean, they probably didn't have it in their own.
They
did
knew
what they knew.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that created wounds internally for me, where I then had a low self-esteem.
Okay.
In the area of beauty, where I didn't think I was beautiful enough. I thought beauty would then come with validation. Somebody else has to validate it. And if not enough people are validating it, then
It's not there. You are not
true.
beautiful.
It's not there. So I went out and I looked for a projection of that lack in me from somebody else. Maybe being associated with a person that's handsome would then speak to me being beautiful. Being associated with somebody who's tall, my shot or my height was validated. You know, you are not bad, you're not disabled.
Yeah.
Somebody taller can date you, you
Yeah.
know. And then the element of smart maybe fed into my own ego,
Okay.
that we are both smart. I'm not just dealing with having to educate someone, vice versa. We can feed into this whole egostatic cycle. And I think those are the elements or the issues that I had internally that showed externally by my attractions. In the 4 relationship, again, there's a common trend as well.
Okay.
I don't want to label it as narcissism. I'd say they had narcissistic traits, which I also had myself. Hence, I spoke about being smart and the ego that comes out of that. There were elements, and mainly to the last relationship, elements of narcissism, traits, narcissistic traits. Let me say that, so because none of them were diagnosed.
Yeah.
There were elements of narcissistic traits where there was ego, whether it was covert or overt, from either from all of them. There was an element of entitlement.
Okay.
And I think I have those traits myself. They appear in one form or the other. And there was an element of validation required, element of multiple need for the validation.
Okay.
From pretty much, I see that trend overall. So in all relationships, all of them somehow did not consider how I would fully feel should they go out and have an affair with somebody else. So they all, in a way, cheated.
Okay.
So I attracted that kind of cycle, and none of them broke it, or none of them were slightly different from that cycle. And it made sense that, we always speak about they, but we all play a role in it. And in my pursuit in those relationships, there was a time I was clear-minded. There was clarity, and I just knew this doesn't cut it. These traits are not good. Whether coming from me or coming from them, they are not good. And and that's because I was so now centered. I was so close to Jesus.
Yeah.
And then I slowly deviated. And then from time to time, I go back and I deviate. But I so further deviated that my flesh was at play. And then I ignored it. And that's the common trend I see before and after in every of these relationships. Whenever I'm so close to Jesus Christ, I have clarity. I know exactly what I want, and I know the approach. And I think I'm at my own traits. The narcissistic traits in me are very much suppressed.
Yeah.
But when I step out, I am they are very much alive, yes. And then I attract the same as well. And then that cycle keeps going and going and going. So yeah, it's that sheep analogy for me.
Yeah.
If there's these insects that are challenging that sheep, there's always gonna be, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
But if those insects,
The
there's
shepherd comes and removes.
anointed, then there's clarity, and I can go about into the green pastures. So yeah, that is what I'm learning, and I hope and pray that I do not recycle back. And if I do, I must catch it quick enough to go back, so that I don't. Because again, I'm going to use an analogy. The Israelites, study shows that they could have been there in Israel, in the land of milk and honey, in 12 days, 11 days, had they just pursued the journey as it was. But it took them 40 years. And I feel like I'm also an Israelite that should be going to the promised land, but because my mentality is not there yet, I keep circling back. And for as long as I have this mentality, I will keep circling back, and I can determine whether or not I'm going to make it or I keep circling back. So I'm aware of it now. I'm in clarity now. And I'd like to continue in that clarity so that eventually I can then pursue and be where I should be, where God wants me to be, because I believe God wants what's good for me.
Okay.